My name is Vince and this is my wife Pamela. We go to the Kirksville campus, and we have 3 children, and grandbaby number 3 coming along in May. And I've been attending the crossing for about 8 years, and Pamela for, would you say?
A little over a year and a half or so.
I took a new job in Kirksville, and I was living about 90 miles away, and so I would be up there through the week because I still had my home in a different town, and some weekends I was in Kirksville, so I was like, I got to get connected and make accountability, and I need to get connected with the church. And so I started asking around and just kept hearing about the crossing, so I started attending. I was real disconnected prior to coming to the crossing because of some of those job changes and a lot of changes in my life.
When Vince and I first met, one of the first things I told him was that I'd gone through a really rough period, and I was born and raised in a Christian home. My father was a pastor, but church to me had become scary. I started coming with him and was glad to. I wanted to. I never wanted to walk away from the Lord, but I was struggling, and so coming to the crossing was a real safe place for me.
When the Wreck the Roof initiative came about and we were presented with the opportunity to participate, and we were challenged to think about how we pray about how God would lead us, we had several conversations about that.
He'd been encouraging me to get back into tithing again because I had stopped tithing. When I quit going to church, I had stopped tithing. Wanted to get back to it, just had never gotten around to it, and so that became actually a catalyst for us.
She's a school teacher, and so she was only working part-time, just doing some subbing and catching work here and there. So when we were challenged with the opportunity to not only for her to begin tithing off of her income, but then making a commitment of what are we going to do out of faith, we made that commitment based upon her having a full-time job as a teacher, and that was 5-6 months before she had a contract. She even said at one point, I can't commit to that amount because I'm not making that. And I'm like, that's okay. We'll just make this commitment, and we'll just trust. We'll figure it out.
We've been able to look back at that and see God's faithfulness in providing the job. We've been able to look back and see, that was one of the first decisions we made as a couple together. Definitely one of the first financial decisions that we made together as a couple. It just kind of cemented our relationship. It confirmed God's faithfulness to us.
Through that process, not only are we giving to this initiative and doing that, God's enabled us to pay down a significant amount of debt at the same time of making this commitment to Wreck the Roof. I think if somebody were to approach me about, I don't know whether to either make a commitment to Wreck the Roof or I'm struggling to fulfill my commitment to Wreck the Roof, I would just say my own personal experience in being obedient to God in the area of finances is sometimes the math doesn't make sense, and sometimes the math has not made sense in my life, but God's always been faithful. I've always had my needs met, not always my wants, but there's a big difference between my wants and my needs. But I've always had my needs met. God doesn't forsake his kids, and I'm one of his kids. And so I would challenge anybody that was struggling with saying, take God at his word. He's not going to forsake you. He's going to see his way through. And if he's led you to make a commitment, then live up to that commitment, because God will not forsake his commitment to you.